In this report, I share that an American was deported from Southeast Asia because he was caught doing a visa run. And I explain how you may be able to avoid this deportation trauma. I'll show you images of us traveling the world while I explain. I was thinking he did something terrible that he was not telling me in the email, so I called him and asked him some questions. He did not do anything egregious as far as I could tell, but it did make me realize some tiny little mistakes he made that I want to share with you. Plus, I realized that I've never shared how I have successfully done visa runs for 17 years now all over the world without getting deported. I'll start with a short explanation of what a visa run is. A visa run is when someone exits a first foreign country before the entry stamp in their passport expires and travels to a second country for a short period of time. Then they return back to the first country, attempting to get a new tourist entry stamp so they can stay in the first country for a longer period of time. Why do people do visa runs? People do visa runs so they can stay longer in a desired country without applying for a visa. A visa run is also called a border run. They leave and return to get a new entry stamp on their passport, which lets them stay longer. What's the most obvious reason visa runs are denied by immigration officials when you re-enter a country? The most obvious reason visa runs are denied is when someone does what is called a U-turn visa run. A U-turn visa run is when someone exits a country and then immediately turns around and attempts to re-enter that country. When you attempt to re-enter a country after being gone for a very short period of time, the immigration officer will see how long you were gone and may assume that you are doing a U-turn visa run. So how long do you have to stay out of a country before you do a U-turn visa run? When is a visa run time period too short? Some countries that depend heavily on a tourism economy allow visa runs without objection. In other countries, they do not allow U-turn visa runs at all. Countries that allow visa runs rarely publish information about how long you should stay out of a country before you re-enter for a new entry stamp. More typically, you don't know how long to stay out of a country before attempting re-entry. So how do you find out the minimum period you must spend in another country to be allowed re-entry to the first country? That is not the only thing you need to know before doing a visa run. Here are some other things you need to know before attempting a visa run. 1, how long do you have to stay out of the country before entry? I already told you that one. Number 2, how many times can I do a visa run from this country before they refuse re-entry? Number 3, if they decide to deny re-entry, how long do you need to wait before trying re-entry again? Number 4, if they give a limited time re-entry stamp instead of a full period re-entry stamp, how long are they likely to give you to wind up your affairs in that country? Should you bring everything valuable with you on a visa run in case they don't allow you a short re-entry period to collect any personal property you left behind? And number 6, if they deny you entry altogether, will they arrest you and deport you to your home country? And if so, how long are they likely to keep you in custody? Okay, how do you get answers to these questions? Don't take advice from someone who did their last visa run in this country 2 years ago. That information is stale. You need someone that has successfully completed a visa run as recently as possible. Getting recent information on this topic is the single most important thing you can do to increase your chances of a successful visa run. I'll explain exactly how to get that information in a minute, but first I will share the 12 stupid things you can do to ruin your visa run, even if you have all the most recent and accurate information for that country. Okay, the 12 common factors that destroy visa run success. Nothing guarantees visa run success, but following these factors will increase your chances of success. These factors are ordered from least important to most important, so try not to fall asleep through this. But this is a topic where you are going to have to read the comments below. It is very country-specific information. My audience always shares valuable information in the comments below. There might be a tidbit down there that saves you from being deported. Okay, here we go. Smile and nod politely and look into the official's eyes when you first arrive in front of them for your re-entry stamp into a country. They are just people trying to get through this crazy life, and a smile may help both of you. Acknowledge them politely, but do not speak until you are spoken to. Only talk if you are answering one of their questions, especially if there is a huge line behind you. Politics and religion. Immigration officials are like everyone else. They have unspoken biases. If they are one religion and you are another, or they are one political ideology and you are of another, that may color their final decision. They may not even realize they're doing it. So consider wearing clothing and jewelry that does not showcase your belief system in a prominent way during those 60 seconds while you're in front of an immigration official. Freedom of speech, if any, is held by citizens of that country, not you. Okay, have your documents in order. Most countries post a list of requirements you need to enter that country for a visa on entry or for a tourist visa exemption stamp. The documents required for you to enter that country without a pre-approved visa are listed on the embassy webpage in your home country, so go read that. Those documents may include such things as where you're staying for the first few nights or so, and proof of a ticket exiting their country before the day your next expected entry stamp is expected to expire, and any other things required for passport holders from your home country. Have those documents ready to show the immigration official. They don't always ask for these documents, but you should have them in case they do. Saying things like, oh, I already have a rented apartment here, or I don't have a ticket exiting your country because I'll just do another visa run when this one expires, are a bad idea. Get the paperwork together. Dress and act appropriately. When I first started traveling the world, I didn't have so many country stamps in my passport. Things are different now. I've been to 67 countries now, and I never overstay. I recommend the best presentation you can possibly. Look like someone that can afford to visit their country and would not cause any trouble there. As an American, I had been to Mexico at least 10 times before I started traveling the world. When people from America go to Mexico, some start drinking as soon as the plane lifts off. So Mexico is used to this kind of behavior and attitude when people land in airports in tourist beach destinations. But most of the world is not so accepting of that kind of party atmosphere at immigration entry points. It's okay to have a few drinks if you can maintain yourself, but don't show up obviously drunk. Dress and act respectfully and save the big party until you clear immigration and your feet are in the sand. This is especially true in countries where social norms are more subdued. Exit and re-entry by land, air, or sea. Read the rules on the embassy webpage in your home country. They should say what passport holders from your country must do to get a visa on entry or a tourist entry exemption stamp on entry. The rules change, so don't assume they haven't changed since you last visited this country. For a time, Thailand had a rule in effect that entries by land, train, ferry, or bus were only given 2 weeks entry stamps, but 30 days stamps if they entered by air. If there are any quirks like that, you need to know so your exit ticket is dated before the date you're required to exit the country. Onward flights or exit tickets. At the time of this writing, there are services online that will rent you an exit ticket for about 48 hours for about $12. That means they'll put your name in the system for a real airline for the 48-hour period from when you check in at the airport to board your flight until you clear immigration in the country you are entering. You can print out the booking to show your exit ticket in the system, but it's only rented so it will expire after you cleared immigration. This will save you money rather than buying an exit ticket that you don't intend to use. To get one, just Google the words onward flights to get a list of travel agencies that provide this service. So you can get an exit ticket for around 12 bucks to show for boarding and immigration entry purposes. This has only failed us once in 5 years, so get to the airport early so you can step out of line and book a real exit ticket in case there's any objection when you try to check into your flight. Get extensions before you try visa runs. Many places allow one or more extensions of your tourist entry stamp before they make you leave the country. In general, you should visit the closest immigration office to you and get those extensions before you leave the country. This shows a pattern of rule following. Those typically allow only a limited extension time before you have to leave the country, but other countries purposely allow multiple extensions of tourist entry stamps before they make you leave. Like in the Philippines, passport holders from many countries can extend their tourist visa stamp for up to 36 months total before they're required to leave the Philippines and do a visa run. Malaysia will allow some countries 3 months on entry plus a 2-month extension, and Thailand allows 1 month on entry with a 1-month extension. Every country is different and they change the rules from time to time. So don't assume these numbers are still true today. You have to check the details on the web page for the embassy in your home country, since those rules are for passport holders from your country. Some countries allow visa runs. Some countries that depend heavily on tourism economy allow visa runs without objection. In that case, you're not trying to hide anything from the immigration official, but allowing visa runs may not last forever. That's why it is essential to get the most current information when you're doing a visa run. Visa runs your friends did 5 years ago or 6 months ago may not work today. For example, Mexico had been notorious for decades for allowing Americans multiple consecutive visa runs. But a few years ago, they suddenly and temporarily started denying visa runs for a short period of time when a new political party entered power in Mexico. Mexico lost substantial tourist revenue when people heard about this during that period of time, which caused them to start accepting the 180-day visa runs again. But update your visa run information before trying now. I'll explain how to do that in a minute. Okay, bring valuables with you. No matter how certain you are that you'll be able to accomplish a visa run without any trouble, I recommend not leaving your most cherished possessions in a country when you do a visa run. I have heard stories where people that left their laptop, USB drives, drones, camera equipment, and jewelry when they go on a visa run. If you're not allowed to re-enter into the country and those valuables are with you, you'll be much happier. Next, have a believable story. Visa runs might be perfectly acceptable at this moment in whatever country you are in today, so that is why I later explain how to find this out in advance. But until you have found that out from a recent credible source, don't assume that you will be allowed to do a visa run to stay longer in that country. When you arrive in front of the immigration official, have a believable story about why you love their country so much and what you want to see a couple of more things before you head back to your home country. Do not volunteer information. Wait until they ask. When they do ask, do not tell the story right away. Just start with something simple like, I love it here so much, I want to see more before I leave for good. But if they push you again, have a slightly longer story to tell that sounds like reasonable tourist behavior. Here's an example bad story. If they ask, what are you doing here? Don't say, I've rented an apartment in your country and I need to get back to see my girlfriend. She's living in my apartment here now. I miss her and can't wait to get back to see her. If you're doing a U-turn visa run, this story might get you deported. You're not a tourist, you live here. You're doing a visa run not to see more of their beautiful country. You're going back to live your normal life here. Okay, here's a better example. Well, I was in the middle of touring X, Y, and Z destinations in your beautiful country when some friends from my home country emailed me and said they were in a nearby country for 2 weeks. So I flew over there to enjoy that country with my 2 friends for 2 weeks. But now I'm back to see the remaining places in your beautiful country. Okay, here's another example. I've been spending time in Thailand, the Philippines, and Malaysia, trying to decide which one I like best before applying for my retirement visa. I think I've made my final decision to retire in your beautiful country, but I'm back to visit to decide which city I like best before applying for my retirement visa. If the immigration official decides that you're not really a tourist, you're only living and returning just to get another temporary tourist stamp, that's when they may start asking you more questions. They may even try a trick question like, it seems like you've been living mostly in our country, so are you just returning from a long weekend vacation in this nearby country? If an immigration official decides that you only left their country in order to return and get a new entry stamp, they could deny you re-entry. The problem is that a country's visa run policy is rarely put in writing. Have multiple recent countries in your passport. If you're on a second visa run from a country, consider changing what country you go to for your second visa run. Don't keep doing your visa runs to the same country. If your passport has multiple countries you are visiting, you look more like a tourist. If you're on your third visa run, consider going to multiple countries during a visa run before returning to the country again. And stay in each country more than a week if possible. A real tourist usually doesn't just go to a nearby country border town for 24 hours and come right back. Once you have spent the money to go to a new country, spend some time there. Okay, now I'm going to share the top 2 things you can do to increase the likelihood that you'll be allowed re-entry. Number 1 is stay away longer before returning. Let's say you were in country A for the maximum period of time you could stay on a tourist entry stamp. If you go to country B on a visa run, stay for 2 or 3 weeks or even a month before you return for your visa run. You'll look more like a tourist and they may not even ask you why you're returning so soon. Since you're really a tourist now, if they ask you why you're coming back so soon, just say, I love it here so much, I wanted to see more of your beautiful country before I fly home. The general rule is the longer you stay in country A on your permitted entry stamp, say 75% or more of the time allowed on your entry stamp, the longer you may want to stay out of country A before returning for another tourist entry stamp in country A. For example, if country A gives you 3 months on a tourist entry stamp, if you stay more than, say, than 75% of those 3 months, you should stay at least 2 weeks in country B before re-enter into country A. But if you stay less than 75% of the allotted time in country A, you probably only need to stay in country B for a week or 10 days before returning to country A. But remember, there's no guarantees. You have to do the most important thing in order to increase your chances the most. Okay, now I'll share the most important thing you can do to prepare for a successful visa run. But this is an art, not a science, so be more conservative in your decision making to stay out of trouble. Okay, the most important thing you can do, find someone who's done a visa run very recently and pick their brain about why they think they were successful. Someone who did a visa run 12 months ago may be helpful to you, but it's better to get more recent information. Look for someone who completed a successful visa run in the last 30 to 90 days. So how do you find people like this? Okay, option number 1, find 1 or more Facebook expat pages in the country you are exiting on a visa run. For example, go to Facebook and search for expats in country name. After joining the Facebook groups of expats and country name, post a public message to the group saying something like, my tourist entry stamp in my US or UK or EU passport expires in 10 days. Can anyone that has done a successful visa run and been able to re-enter country name and get a new tourist entry stamp in the last 30 to 90 days, please private message me. I have some questions about how to do my visa run successfully. Beers are on me if you can, or we can just private message if you are too busy. Option number 2, do a Google search on things like A, are visa runs legal in country name in 2024? B, are border runs legal in country name in 2024? Or C, how to do a successful visa run in country name in 2024? Or D, Best tricks foreigners use to stay longer in country name. And then finally, option number 3, do a Google search and a Facebook search such as visa agents in country name. They often know little tricks that allow you to stay legally in the country longer. For example, I have many friends who've stayed longer in various countries by getting student visas for such things as martial arts, language school, history, etc. Begin all 3 options well before your time is about to run out on your visa stamp. If you have enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and ring the bell. Also, if you'd like to learn how I fired my boss and traveled the world for 17 years, make sure to click the free ebook button appearing on your screen right now. And if you'd like to learn how to travel the world for 14 years on a tourist stamp, click the video in the upper right-hand corner of your screen right now.